Hello there. Today I am talking to Mark Wooten from Jigsaw Farms in Victoria. He was featured on episode 3 of Fight for Planet A, which was on agriculture and farming. Mark has introduced several innovative approaches on his farm, which have led to higher productivity and a lower carbon footprint. Before I begin this talk, I would like to acknowledge that we are broadcasting from Whadjuk Noongar country and that we acknowledge and thank the traditional owners of this land and give thanks to elders past and present. Thanks, Mark. Hi, Mark. Thanks for joining us.
Hi, Catherine.
Firstly, I would just like for you to run through how Jigsaw Farm came to be, because when I listened to a previous interview, you're not from a farming farm. Well, my understanding is you're not from a farming family. It's a deliberate move. So yes, please let us know how it all started.
Oh, well, I farmed since I was 18, but I've been on farms since then. But we bought here when I was 36, so 1996. And before then, we'd been involved in smaller holdings in Gippsland. But this was the first scalable move we did. We came here for a variety of reasons, partly because of the reliability of rain, but partly because if you're near a capital city in the eastern seaboard, anything within about 2 hours is cost prohibitive to get to scale. And we came and we started at a smaller scale with about 1,300 acres, and then we grew. At one point, we got to about 16,500 acres. So we grew over time, and we've now consolidated back down to about 8,500. So we've got scale, and we were always interested in grazing, so that's why we're here. And we moved from there.
And am I correct? You have both cattle and sheep on Jigsaw Farm?
We have about 700 breeding cattle, which are calving right at the moment, actually. And we join we lamb down anywhere between about 18,000 to 25,000 merino ewes, of which a percentage are joined, depending on the season and the market, to terminal sires. So wool's a significant part of our income still, but also protein is king. Yeah.
Okay, great. Now, I wanted to find out, what were your main drivers in becoming carbon neutral, and when did you start this journey?
Well, in '96 we started. We one of the first farms we got here was a pot of farmland plan farm, and they'd started in a modest way some tree planting on that, and we continued using the principles that were set up there as we bought basically by and large degraded properties, and we fenced to land type, and we're very keen on our biodiversity links and shelter belts from a production point of view. We were keen to get lambing percentages up, and by taking out we're spring lambers here, we're lambing right at the moment, and late winter take out what is our main high chill winds, which are the southwesterly winds. We needed to do extensive shelter, so we did that, and we, at the same time, got water security. So we did deep water storage away from lots of little dams, but bigger dams, because the evaporative loss is a lot less. And we also then set up, we were pretty keen on our sawlog timbers, so the agroforestry. So about half the trees we put in are sawlog timbers, predominantly spotted gums, and half are permanent re-veg. So if you looked at our jigsaw, you'd see a patchwork of trees running across the landscape, which reflect the different soil type changes, and at the same time looking at, giving good stock protection and taking out some of that wind chill effect of some of the nastier weather.
So you developed on remnant vegetation, is that right? And sort of developed it further?
No, it wasn't remnant. It was just it basically it'd been cleared. Well, it'd been cleared over the last 160, 70 years, and we'd gone back in and we put in mainly local indigenous plantings in the permanent revegetation. And then all the rest were highly improved pastures. So we did an extensive pasture renovation program. And the way we get to where we've got to get carbon neutrality meant that the best country was left for pastures and for growing grass, and therefore we doubled the stocking rate of the properties by improving those pastures. And so we run a high input system. We use a fair bit of fertiliser, and at the same time we have dedicated set aside conservation areas and biodiversity linkages through the trees. We've planted, well, over all the plantings, we've done about 1.1 million plantings, but we've kept now in the consolidated form about 650 hectares are down to trees of some sort.
Well, I mean, I was quite astonished on yesterday's show when you stated how much more productive your farm was on less area. Yeah, it was quite amazing.
Well, I mean, the modelling we looked at was basically, there's not many farms, and it depends on, I'm not familiar with the West Australian ones, so I'm not trying to tell people how to suck eggs, but there's not many farms that couldn't take out about at least 10% of their country from their lower production, whether it's too wet or too rocky or too something, which wouldn't be their optimum pasture or cropping areas. And in WA, there's some large salt belts I'm aware of. And they therefore could do your offset plantings in those areas with making sure you're choosing a suitable species to match the needs of the soils that you're putting into. And it's a broadly adaptable process of what we've done to nearly any Australian landscape, really.
Look, you have spoken quite a bit about the pros. I guess the pros of being on this journey, which has been higher productivity, shelter for your sheep, or for your stock. I was also quite interested on this journey, what have been the cons and the negatives, or the difficulties, I probably would say, more the difficulties along the way.
Well, the difficulties are probably the capital cost of doing some of the works. So unless you can use partnering funding through a variety of schemes or Landscare or third-party investment, that's the challenge. With each of the properties we bought, we sat down and did a whole farm plan at the beginning stage, and for some people that may take 30 years to get to, and for other people you may do it in 5 years, depending on how much capital you can invest. We've put no capital from outside or any borrowings here for nearly post the drought in 2006-07. We haven't had to put any outside capital in, and so the profits that we get from the farms by and large have been reinvested. Although I have 4 adult children, that sort of puts some pressure under the side of it. So that's not always been the case. But you know, we're in a very fortunate area. We've got scale. We've got commodities that people are after. We've played with our genetics. We've actually used a lot of the WA genetics actually within our sheep flock. And we've really, by improving our efficiency and our fertility, we haven't had the problems that we normally have because we've had capital coming in. But in a nutshell, I suppose the 2 biggest determinants for us have been capital and energy. Sometimes your energy weighs over the 25 years of time we've been involved in doing this now. And the drought, those 2 years of drought in 6 and 7, they really knocked us around a fair bit, both financially and from an energy point of view to keep going. But, you know, if you've got a resilient system that's adaptive to some of the climate harshness and some of the frequency of these difficult events, then I think you get great solace in staying on the farm. And some of the plantations actually gave us, when everything else was nearly dying or dead on the farm, other than livestock, which were obviously supplementary feeding in the drought, you go into these plantations and they were still there, and they gave us lots of good energies coming back from that. What we were doing is the right thing. So even out of those negative experiences, they were still positive.
No, there's quite a few things I sort of wanted to break down there, because obviously we've been talking about what you've done with your land there with the trees, but that's not the only thing that you've done in your carbon neutral journey, is it? For the efficiencies, as you
No,
you know, want to talk about them.
Well, genetics has been very important. I mean, we went from reproduction rates in our sheep flock, which we had ovine Johne's disease, and we had a combination of perhaps, for whatever better word, too precious merino sheep genetics, and we went to less precious merino genetics, which were predominantly people who into their breeding the sheep. It was by selecting heavily for fat and muscle, but also keeping fleece value. By doing that, we went from sub 70% weaning rates to now we're sitting at 105%, and that allows you to not only be more economically successful, obviously you have a lot more lambs, but the second thing is it also allows you to use your surplus ewes for terminals, so you can do the meat job if the protein's up and there. And the Muhammad Al Khil job for us for that Middle East market was a very important thing for our merino byproduct. But the other thing, which is by increasing those fecundatory levels and by having more lambs on the ground, your actual carbon footprint dropped, because the one mother was producing a lot more lambs in its lifetime, and because of the growth rates, we were finishing those lambs quicker. We have a opportunist feedlot here, which holds anywhere between sort of 5,000 to 7,000 lambs at any time in the year, and if we can hit certain markets with that by doing feed efficiency, that means that, to be brutal, the lamb lives less to produce the same amount of product, and therefore it's exerting less methane, which means it's from a carbon intensity point of view is a lot lower footprint, and that's what we also do. And on the beef side, of course, we've chased the genetics there as well for growth, and we do crossbreeding. We have mainly black baldy calves on the ground here at the moment, because you get a 12% hybrid vigor gain, which again is lowering your carbon footprint by about 12% for the growth of what you get at the end. The animal produces more meat, and so there's a strong correlation, I think, between good economic decisions and good carbon decisions. I think they go hand in hand.
Yeah, I think they have to. So, I mean, in terms of measurement and what you've done on your farm, do you know which sort of attributes lower your carbon footprint the most on your measurement?
Oh, well, the trees are the standout, because they do the immediate offset to why you do these other things. But there's, it's like all these things, it's a combination of events. I mean, the trees are a classic story. I mean, the co-benefits from the trees, which we were discussing before, are many. But the same with, if you're attacking, trying to lower your carbon footprint, we've halved our electricity usage across all the properties now by introducing an extensive amount of solar. We've looked at, when you go buy your next ute or your tractor or whatever, you take a harsh eye on the efficiency of the machinery you're buying. You look at the longevity of the machinery you're buying, because you know that the carbon footprint is, a lot of it is actually in the manufacturing of that product. So you make sure that when you buy something, it's going to last for a number of years and you maintain it. So again, good farm business practice is lowering the carbon footprint. If you have a lot of wastage in your system, whether that's either energy or machinery or people, and labour, then you won't have as an efficient operation, and your carbon footprint will be higher. So it is a combination of these things. It's not as simple as saying, just tell me the thing to do. Well, there's not a thing to do. There's many varied things to do. And as long as you understand that you're trying to lower per product the carbon intensity of it, I think you're in a strong position.